Hi everyone, I'm so excited to be here today, learn about everybody's work and talk about our studies on examining influence of printing directionality on the freeze-thaw response of 3D printed cement paste. So this work is in collaboration with Princeton University and was funded by grants from the National Science Foundation. So I'll start with a general introduction, the background of this work, and then the data we collected, experimental data, and then discuss these data, and then end with a conclusion. So the main question is, what's the difference between conventionally cast cement paste and printed cement paste? They're both cement paste, right? So the only thing is one is homogeneous while the other one is heterogeneous. And that's very well illustrated in the paper of Mani et al. By microcity. So you could see in the 3D printed material, you have macropores and microchannels. So we cannot test these material assuming that they are similar to the cast one. We cannot use the same procedure to test both cast samples and printed samples because there is anisotropy. And how does this anisotropy impact the durability of these materials? So today we're going to talk about impact of this anisotropy on the freeze-thaw performance of the materials and touch base a little bit on this anisotropy, how does it impact fluid transport. So one of the conventional techniques that we use for testing the freeze-thaw performance of conventionally cast sample is ASTM C666, where the sample gets immersed in solution and measured up until failure. They measure the modulus of elasticity and then the weight change. You can also measure length change. But one of the things in this procedure is insensitive to anisotropy caused by printing directionality, and also it doesn't separate the rate of absorption from the damage at a given DOS. So that's what we want to kind of look into how we could do this on printed materials. So to talk more about this second point, separating rate of absorption and the freezing performance, we're gonna talk about the critical saturation model. So you have the degree of saturation on the y-axis, square root time, and the x-axis. So when you immerse a sample in solution or when the sample is in contact with liquid, first gel and capillary pores will get filled with solution until neak point, which is matrix saturation. And then the air void will start to get filled until we get to the critical level of saturation, which we call it DOS critical. So above that value, sample will develop freeze-thaw damage, while when the DOS of the sample is below that critical value, you will not see freeze-thaw damage. So it will be really important to see if the critical degree of saturation in printed element change or is different than the one for conventionally cast materials. And the second thing is the time to reach critical saturation level depend on the printing procedure, on the ways the filaments are oriented with respect to the water absorption. So we're going to be looking at these 2 points. So we've developed previously a procedure that allows determining critical degree of saturation based on length change measurements. And that procedure is using Thermomechanical Analyzer. So you would see the photo here. It's a machine that has a furnace connected to a cooling unit that allows cycling temperature from room temperature to negative temperature. And that's a close-up photo for the inside of this machine. So there is a stage here, and then there is a sample, and then there is a macro expansion probe connected to a linear variable differential transducer that's measuring the length of the samples throughout the temperature cycle. So how the graphs in this machine look. So this is like a graph obtained on a sample that's fully saturated. So where we would expect freeze-thaw damage, you would see the strain on the y-axis and then the temperature on the x-axis. So we start our test at this point here, and then we cool our sample until ice formation, there is sudden increase in length, and then during heating, ice would melt, sudden decrease in length, and at the end of the test, the sample would not go back to its original length due to cracks forming with ice formation. So that's what we call here residual strain. And that's what we are going to be using in this study as an indicator for freeze-thaw damage, right? So now if we look at a graph where we don't expect ice to form, so DOS below critical value, it's a straight line. When there is no ice, the sample of the length will go back to original length. So this is the strain, residual strain value on the y-axis with respect to the degree of saturation of the sample. So if you plot the residual strain value for different US, the point where you don't see any residual strain, that's where you stop seeing damage. So that corresponds to the critical degree of saturation value. And that's what we're gonna, so that's the procedure we're gonna be using to determine the critical DRS for printed sample in two different directionality. So we prepared our sample using an Ultimaker, which is originally a printer for plastic, but we connected to a stepper motor to extrude cement paste. And then the samples looked like prismatic, 50 by 40 by 12 millimeter height, and then had a water of cement ratio of 0.27. And then once sample cured, we cut them into different geometries. So you'd see these here, prisms with filaments that are perpendicular to the length in which we want to measure the sample, filaments parallel to the direction of length change measurements, and then the conventionally cast sample as a comparison point. So that's the base value, and we would be comparing these two to the cast one and among each other. So here is the results at 100% degree of saturation, where the samples are fully saturated. The first graph here is for the direction that's perpendicular, so filament perpendicular to the length change direction, parallel direction, and then cast sample. And then these are residual strain values for all three geometries. You could see that at 100% DUS, the sample with perpendicular filament has a higher residual strain value as compared to the other one, and that's mainly due to the weak interface. So the first damage will happen along the interface, so you'd be able to capture these in the perpendicular direction, which you would not be able to see in the other direction. So if we look at the bigger picture, though, which would matter most for the critical saturation model that we just talked about at the beginning of this presentation, you would see the 3D printed sample with perpendicular direction, the black circle, the red triangle are parallel direction, and cast are the blue symbols. So you would see that all the points kind of are on top of each other, and the critical degree of saturation value for all these three geometry is the same. So based on the statistical analysis, there is no significant difference in the freeze-thaw response of cast and 3D printed sample, irrespective from the printing directionality. So the critical saturation level would be the same. And if we look at the coefficient of thermal expansion, which we could also obtain from the Thermomechanical Analyzer measurements by just determining the slope of the line during the cooling of the sample, we would also see that the coefficient of thermal expansion is also the same between all these three geometries. So there is no impact from anisotropy on the coefficient of thermal expansion, as well as the amount of ice forming in this sample. So we quantified these using the low differential scanning calorimetry, LTDSC. So we determined the heat during ice melting, normalized this by the latent heat of ice, and we quantified the amount of ice in the sample. We could see that cast and printed sample had the same amount of freezable solution. One important point to note here is the amount of ice forming in this sample is pretty low, so the freeze-thaw damage would also be small, and that's because of the low water to cement ratio in printed cement paste and the low capillary pores. So for buildability of cementitious material, people would tend to have low water to cement ratio, and that's a win because that will help in freeze-thaw damage. So now we answered the first question, okay? We don't have any impact from printing on the critical degree of saturation value. Now, how does the anisotropy impact fluid transfer in the material? So in other words, time to reach critical saturation. So we've done formation factor measurements and neutron radiography measurements. Due to time limit, we're just going to talk about formation factor measurements here, which are direct indicator for fluid transfer in the samples. So we prepared samples with different filament overlap to assess the impact of printing process parameter on the fluid movement and correlate this to anisotropy. So you see the different samples here, good printed sample with 20% overlap to a really bad sample where you could We could even lose a child in the gap, so it's a big gaps. So we want to see how these gaps, if the sample are not really well printed, how the gap would impact fluid transfer in the material. And we measured resistivity in 2 directions, so perpendicular direction, parallel direction, and then calculated formation factor. So the results would look like this. So perpendicular direction is a straight line, parallel direction is a dotted line. You can see when you don't have good overlap between filaments, well, the formation factor would decrease in the perpendicular direction, but even way more in the parallel direction. So anisotropy does impact fluid ingress, especially if the print process parameters are not very well defined. So printed element in which filament overlap is not properly done may exhibit earlier freeze-thaw damage due to this weak interface. So in summary, samples with good overlapping have similar critical degree of saturation value, similar percentage freezable for solution, similar coefficient of thermal expansion compared to conventionally cast sample, independently from the printing directionality. And the low water to cement ratio of this mixture is very good for reducing capillary pores freezable solution, which increase the freeze-thaw damage of printed materials. And print process parameters are very important because they impact fluid transfer, and anisotropy matters in that case. So yeah, thank you for your attention, and let me know if you have any questions.